You're listening to
and such a short amount of time to do it in.
a Mamamia podcast.
Hi there and welcome to Cancelled, a podcast from Mamamia about who's in, who's out and who cares. I'm Claire Stephens. I'm an editor, a writer and a person who spends a lot of time thinking about petty celebrity drama. And here I tell the story of a celebrity cancellation to my twin sister, and that's me, Jessie Stephens. I'm a writer and an author, and I think that cancel culture is not good. Okay? That's really profound. I don't think it's good because it reduces human beings to one-dimensional ideologies and it separates us into camps of good and evil, which is too simplistic and bordering on dangerous. Is my theory regarding cancel culture, but this is not a serious podcast.
No.
It's a ha-ha podcast. It's a ha-ha podcast. And so what we do is we go through a celebrity's transgressions or perceived transgressions and we decide how naughty they are. Isn't it weird to tell people at the beginning of a podcast that it's ha-ha? It just really
doesn't
sets
feel
you up.
right. I know.
Because they're like, well, I haven't laughed. I haven't laughed yet. Well, how about now?
Okay.
Do I have a laugh now?
So let's get straight into it.
Today, we're looking at Playboy the brand, inexplicably tied to Hugh Hefner the man, the editor and publisher of Playboy magazine and founder of the whole Playboy empire.
Good morning, Michael, from the Playboy Mansion. This was where Hugh Hefner lived, at times with up to 7 girlfriends at once. This is where he threw those legendary debauched parties, and this is where he died. Love him or loathe him, Hugh Hefner left a mark.
Becoming a Playboy playmate was to these girls like Miss America. Even if their family or their boyfriend said, we don't want you to do it, the girls wanted to do it.
In researching this, Jessie, I watched American Playboy on Amazon Prime, which
Never
is a
heard of that.
10-part. It's the weirdest thing I've ever watched.
Did you watch all of it?
Maybe. Yes.
I'm Hugh Hefner. You may think you know all about me. The magazine, the mansions, the parties, the women, but you don't know the half of it.
It doesn't even cover his whole freaking life. Is it a documentary or a drama? Oh, great question, Jessie. It's both. It's dramatised with interviews. And so it'll have the real Hugh Hefner, but then the actor Hugh Hefner.
There is nothing that makes me more uncomfortable than reenactments.
Okay, same. And it is also the most narcissistic piece of propaganda I have ever witnessed. He's played by this really absurdly attractive man who doesn't age. It's the weirdest show ever. And it's propaganda because it's like he was on the right side of history with like the civil rights movement and all this stuff. And he was. And I'm not arguing that he wasn't on the right side of history.
He was masturbating for most of his life.
He was. And the other thing is anything naughty he did, they tried to flip it. So he paid a bribe to open a Playboy club in New York City. And then they're like, when I was forced to pay the bribe, I'm like, did you get a gun held to your head and you were forced to pay the bribe, or did you pay the bribe so you could open your club?
Hugh Hefner is a victim. I love this line of thinking.
Yes. Let's start with Playboy magazine because that's where it all started.
We need some context.
With a young Hugh Hefner wanting to start a magazine. He was obsessed with Esquire and then he got, interestingly, actually, like he would love this story, he wanted a $5 pay rise at Esquire magazine. They wouldn't give it to him, so he left, and within a few years he had a magazine that had better circulation than Esquire. Like, good for you.
Self-startup, lady startup.
Yeah, lady startup. Playboy is an American men's lifestyle and entertainment magazine, and it ran monthly in print form from 1953 until 2016.
Too recent.
It's way too recent. Also started earlier than you think. Like, Mum wasn't born.
Yeah, that was Grandma's time.
Yeah, Hugh Hefner was born in like 1926. So like literally when Nan was born.
He's our pop.
Yeah, he's our pop. It was founded in.
He'd been serving in a war. Like I don't wish war upon the man, but
he lived through a few wars.
Yeah.
It was founded in Chicago by Hugh Hefner and it turned a profit in its first year, which is just unheard of. And the reason it did was because the very first edition of Playboy made a big splash because the cover girl and nude image inside was of one of the most famous women in the world, Marilyn Monroe.
I know her.
So how on earth did a guy launching a magazine for the first time with funding partially from his mother, get Marilyn Monroe to pose naked. Jessie, how would he do that?
A lot of money.
A lot of
From
money,
his
you
mum.
think?
His mum must have been a millionaire.
No, she wasn't. He didn't get her to pose naked. Hugh Hefner never met Marilyn Monroe in his whole life. And she didn't get a cent for the nude photos of her appearing in the magazine. In fact, she didn't want them printed in the first place. Years earlier, she had posed naked to pay her bills, and those images were owned by a calendar company. People knew about the photos, but no one wanted to print them because they thought it was a bit screwed up. Hefner bought them and printed them, and the rest was history.
So it's like leaking nudes, but worse because you're profiting.
Yes, so
At
it's
least
like
when you're a man leaking nudes of his ex or whatever. I mean, you're not directly, maybe you are, you put them on the internet. He just created a multi-million-dollar company from it in 1953.
Yes, correct. So it literally was, remember there was that whole thing online called like the fappening or whatever?
Yeah.
It's that, but Marilyn Monroe edition, and he made a successful business out of it.
I feel like there should have been more criticism at the time.
Yes, and I would like to launch some more current criticism because speaking of Marilyn Monroe, he never met her, but she made him famous, right? He bought the burial plot next to her, and when he died at 91 a few years ago, he was buried beside her. Sir, leave her alone. Leave her alone.
Leave that woman alone.
Her corpse is like, I don't know him.
Have it on the record. I do not know this man. There is a man laying next to me with an erection. I am dead. I want to lay here in peace. Rest me in peace. Rest in peace,
R.I.P.
Marilyn.
It's like the one thing we say about dead people, R.I.P.
R.I.P. Let her rest in peace. Instead, the man is digging up the ground and going, I will haunt you into the
You
afterlife.
just know his corpse is facing her. It's like, lay
With
on
his
your
hand on his
back.
willy.
Yeah.
Going, can we get the clothes off that corpse?
No.
She's a corpse.
It's
And you need to give her some space, which I feel as though is what Hugh Hefner needed to hear all his life. Back
give
off.
her some space.
Give her some space. Leave her alone.
Exactly.
Get your eyes off her.
So I find that really disturbing. Let's talk about the Playboy logo. They had a bit of a mascot. They had the bunny. I think rabbits, rightly
Are cute.
Well, yes, obviously. We had pet rabbits growing up. They were great. But rightly or wrongly, they have a bit of a weird reputation because they're always having sex. Hefner said he chose the rabbit for its humorous sexual connotation and because the image was frisky and playful. In a 1967 interview, he said, "The rabbit in America has a sexual meaning. I chose it because it's a fresh animal, shy, vivacious, jumping, sexy."
I feel like he's pretending he thought about this a lot more than he did.
I
He just
know.
chose it because it's like, isn't the expression like we effed like rabbits
Yeah.
or whatever? It's just they just have sex a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Don't pretend it's to do with
He also
vivaciousness.
didn't design it, like the designer designed it. But anyway, first it smells you, then it escapes, then it comes back, and you feel like caressing it, playing with it.
How many rabbits having sex have you watched, you old dirty man?
A girl resembles a bunny.
No.
Joyful joking. Consider the girl we made popular, the playmate of the month. She is never sophisticated, a girl you cannot really have. She is a young, healthy, simple girl, the girl next door. We are not interested in the mysterious, difficult woman, the femme fatale who wears elegant underwear with lace.
Oh, that's not us.
And she is sad and somehow mentally filthy. The Playboy girl has no lace, no underwear. She is naked, well washed with soap and water.
Yuck.
And she is happy.
Yuck.
That is a thing you're talking about, not a person.
I don't like the well-washed.
I know. Don't you comment on anybody's washing habits, old man.
The thing is, he was always old.
Even in 1953. Even when he was young.
Even when he was young, he was old.
He was a creeper.
That is an early charge.
Yep. Always being
old. Which isn't, I don't have a problem with being old.
No.
But he really played on, I'm 83, she's 18, and I have sex with her every night.
Yeah.
He was the one who made a big deal about being old.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he was always old.
And always wearing a dressing gown.
And slippers.
The Playboy magazine also had something called the Playboy interview. And it was a several thousand-word discussion between an interviewer and a notable person of the day. And they really, in this documentary, movie, TV show thing that I watched.
Piece of propaganda.
Yes.
It's like Triumph of the Will. Is
Yes,
that what it's called?
That's
Leni
exactly what
Riefenstahl.
it is.
Yeah.
It's Hugh Hefner's version of that. And basically, they really tried to hammer home the big names that spoke to Playboy. And, you know, I'm not saying that the contents of Playboy were always terrible. I'm sure they were great. So they interviewed Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Jimmy Carter. They had John Lennon and Yoko Ono appear in the January 1981 issue, and it was on newsstands at the time of Lennon's murder, and then that interview was later published in book format. Culturally, it was right on the pulse. It had writing by Margaret Atwood. In terms of literary content, it was some good content.
Importantly, you could also masturbate ferociously while also caring about race politics.
I know.
I mean, 1 minute you've just...
They're not mutually exclusive.
If you're feeling guilt, you're feeling shame,
Yeah.
then you can quickly do a flick. I'm just reading about race politics and
Yeah.
then I'm going to ejaculate
Exactly.
on Martin Luther King's face. Like, I don't feel like it's right.
No.
It's not right.
It does feel weird, doesn't it? In the 70s, a Playboy-owned magazine, so obviously Playboy expanded and they had some other kind of smaller publications. And this one was called Sugar and Spice. And it published photos of a naked Brooke Shields. Oh, that's fine, you say.
I mean, it's not, but like...
She was
yeah, it's
10. She was 10.
Okay, you know how we do charges and sentencing?
Yeah.
I don't have to make up a charge for that because it's child exploitation
Yeah,
material and
yeah.
that's illegal. I don't understand.
It wasn't illegal at the time. According to the photographer, the intention was to reveal the not-so-latent sexuality of the prepubescent child.
That's disgusting.
It's not there. It's imagined. There is no sexuality in
That's
a
disgusting.
10-year-old Brooke Shields. At least 9 minors they featured in American and international editions of Playboy. In 1958, Hefner was brought before a court after publishing images of Elizabeth Ann Roberts, who was 16, in a feature called Schoolmate Playmate. Roberts was described as a bouncy teenager, occupied by reading, writing, and arithmetic. The charges were dropped because Roberts' mother had consented to the shoot.
All right.
So sometimes we take
Cancel
photos
people. Sometimes we cancel people along the way. Who's
Yeah.
cancelled along the way?
Her mum.
Mum.
Also, I have to say Brooke Shields' mum.
Was that her mum who said yes?
She did.
All right. Well, I mean,
And
they're
then
on trial here because I'm not impressed.
And then Brooke Shields' mum got really mad at the photographer, and the photographer was like, "You're exploiting her more than I am." And it's like, that may be true, sir, but this is still a very inappropriate photograph.
I would also cancel the photographer.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the person who was like, 10-year-old? Yes! Obviously, we'll run a photo of a naked 10-year-old. There's
and I
nothing
would
wrong
like
with
to
that.
cancel everyone who looked at it.
Yes!
Put it on
Me
your stand.
too. Incredibly inappropriate.
That's a crime.
Then the other part of kind of the whole Playboy experience was what they called the Playboy philosophy and the Playboy lifestyle. And Hugh Hefner, he was originally married and had 2 children, right, when he started this whole thing. Then he
Did
started...
he abandon them?
Yes. He divorced his wife and you didn't see much of his children. Yes.
Okay.
So then he started to adopt the lifestyle he was selling to men all around the country.
Which was slippers and a
Yeah.
dressing gown and being 83.
Yeah. And sleeping with women and then the women wanting something monogamous and him not, and them getting frustrated and him being like, well, then leave. I'll have
I
these
have a
8
harem.
girlfriends. I have a harem. The philosophy behind the magazine was that it was speaking to men who were culturally articulate. The man that was kind of meant to be the Playboy man was a challenge to the post-war standard of this family man who didn't speak and like a cold warrior. The Playboy bachelor was happy and single, and he cared about how he dressed. He cared about how to cook. He was actually a bit metrosexual.
He's got a book about race politics in his left hand and his dick in his right.
Exactly. And I do think Hugh Hefner was really inspired by Kinsey and actually donated a lot of money to the Kinsey Institute. So
Kinsey was like a studier
sex
of
researcher.
Yeah, sex researcher.
Who was basically the one who said that...
The Kinsey scale.
The Kinsey scale about sexuality and that none of us are completely straight or completely gay. Is that right? And so Hugh Hefner was really, really inspired by that. And so I do think that there was something...
about sexual liberation
Yes.
and freedom that he played into. But I don't think that was for women. I think that was for the men.
Yes, definitely. Then came the emergence of Playboy bunnies and the Playboy clubs.
The American male has found a new place of relaxation. It's the Playboy Club.
So they started to have this woman who was the centerfold, and you should see this documentary. The way they show the moment where they decided to fold because a magazine is like a certain size.
Yeah.
And they're like, we want the centerfold to be bigger.
Yeah.
And they're like, do we have to make the whole magazine bigger? And
No,
then
we can turn it into 4, and then was like, don't.
No, they're like, we can fold it. And they just fold the image and everybody like looks around and I'm like, this is so cringeworthy.
I'm not paying that.
No.
It's genius. I'm not. He's
No.
not Albert Einstein.
You folded a piece of paper of a naked woman.
that you didn't even
Congrats.
ask her permission for the
No.
photo.
You didn't. You
folded it into 4s.
Yes. And they were so proud of the fact that they had created, they're like, this wasn't just a pornographic image because we gave her a name and a personality.
We gave it to her. Was it her real name? No.
Maybe.
Did it have any bearing on her personality? No. They all had the same personality, which was slut.
No. A lot of them I think probably didn't use their real names, but they really did start careers by being the playmate.
Yeah, but they all had the same personality.
Yes, which was, I don't think they really liked clever women.
No.
Which
They said that.
which
They
we'll
really
get
hated
to.
them.
Yeah.
I think they're unwashed or something.
Yeah. Then Hugh Hefner was like, all right, so I've got my Playboy philosophy, I've got my Playboy
I
lifestyle.
came up with the metaphor about the bunnies, which was really clever.
Yeah, I've got my magazine, it's selling like crazy. I need to turn this into a real life thing that people can experience for themselves. So he created the Playboy clubs.
See a race of girls called bunnies. A bunny is an American creation. She's a cross between a hostess showgirl and a barmaid waitress, well versed in the art of charming the cash customers in a string of plush international clubs.
And it all started because he bought the original Playboy Mansion in Chicago and everybody kept partying and he really liked it. And so he was like, well, let's just turn that into like an exclusive club. So he starts the first club in Chicago in 1960 and soon there were clubs all over America. Now, I could tell you a whole bunch of facts and how there was a bunny mother who trained them and it was bloody weird.
I think it smelt bitter. I think that it was, I imagine a lot of sweaty men with sticky hands.
Yeah.
And I see them as a little dishevelled, groping and licking their lips.
Yes.
And I don't want to be in a Playboy bar.
Well, instead of telling you all the tiny little facts, I'm going to tell you one story. And it's about a little-known woman called Gloria Steinem.
Yep.
She's the most iconic feminist of the century.
Yes.
Okay?
So she went into Playboy.
It was gonzo journalism. She was 28 and she infiltrated a Playboy club and got a job as a bunny.
Oh, that's
What?
a good story.
I'm so jealous.
That's a great story.
I'm so jealous that she thought of that. I'm like, nothing I ever do will be that smart. So she was 28 to pretend to be 24 because that was the upper age limit. So she was like, shit, I'm going to have to pretend I'm 24. She worked at the New York Playboy Club and adopted a fake identity and lied about her age. She became Marie and said the objectification started when she walked into the building and a man said, hey, bunny, 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 bunny. Can you imagine you're Gloria Steinem and you, hey, bunny, 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 bunny. I am smarter than you.
I am so smart.
She was told her fake age of 24 was awfully old, which
I've often
she
said
was like,
that.
"Ooh." Eventually, she made it into the bunny costume without an interview, which...
So they did dress them as animals, right?
Oh, yeah. Have you seen the bunny costume? Okay, because the documentary obviously has a whole section explaining the moment they decided the bunny costume had a bow tie and how they made it lower. It's just ridiculous.
To bunnies. Like, it's degrading to so many
Can
different
you imagine
people.
bunnies being like...
Yeah, we have a rampant sex life, but we don't want to be portrayed like that. We don't
No.
wear bow ties.
We don't. So Gloria Steinem wrote that the bunny costume was so tight that the zipper caught my skin as the bunny mother fastened at the back. She told me to inhale as she zipped again, this time without mishap, and stood back to look at me critically. The bottom was cut up so high that it left my hip bone exposed, as well as a good 5 inches of my untanned derriere.
I'm sorry, but hard relate.
Yeah.
Swimsuits at the moment. I mean,
I
that's
know.
me in, DJs.
Yeah.
trying on a
like,
swimsuit,
"Oh,
going,
no."
this isn't, I need some modesty here.
I do. Then when she had the outfit on, the wardrobe mistress stuffed plastic dry cleaning bags into the top of her costume for extra cleavage.
Mm-hmm.
She had to go through bunny training, which involved
So
an
degrading.
internal
The
physical.
woman has a PhD
I know.
or something.
I know. It involved an internal physical with a gynecologist.
No, what were they looking for?
I think like STDs, STIs. It seems unnecessary.
Yeah.
Because they insisted that like no one was allowed to touch the bunnies. The bunnies weren't allowed to have relations with any of the men. So I don't know why they needed a gynecological exam. It's really disturbing.
Was that just like Hugh in a doctor's coat?
It was a Playboy approved doctor, let's say that. She then entered bunny training, and that included makeup guidance as well as bunny Bible study, a bunny mother lecture, a bunny father lecture.
I need you to stop saying the word bunny. It's making me feel really gross.
Bunny school,
No, bunny school.
floor training, and a written test. Okay?
What was on the written test?
I don't know. Apparently there was a bunny mother who would train you.
I
and
don't like the bunny mother.
I don't like her because it reminds me of Handmaid's Tale. Okay?
It reminds me of a brothel.
Yeah.
And when you've got a, what do you call them? Like the person who's like in charge of the thing.
Madam?
Yeah, madam.
Yeah. So the bunny mother trains you and teaches you how to stand. I've watched some of the training videos and look, nothing against the bunny mothers, but they were cranky. And they were yelling at people saying, your ears don't sit right. One of the things I hated the most about school was the constant surveillance of my appearance.
Yeah.
That it was always like, your hair's too messy.
Your blazer's got a hole in it.
Your blazer's
Where's
got a hole
your
in
hat?
it. Yeah. Your hat's been lost for months. You've got makeup on.
You got a hole in your stockings.
all
Yeah.
of that. And that, like being a bunny would be that times a million. They were like, everything about you is wrong. And then you had to do these physical things. So there was something called a bunny stance. You had to stand a certain way with like your toes out. It was weird. And a bunny dip. And it was a back-leaning way of placing drinks on low tables without falling out of their costumes.
Okay.
And Gloria Steinem said, I felt like an idiot when she had to do it. Again, hard relate. So she basically said that it wasn't what it appeared, which was Hugh Hefner was saying how much money these women were making, but in actual fact, there was all this fear of being docked money as you were working for making mistakes. You had to buy your own heels and you had to pay for your costume's upkeep. And it's like, I'm only in this costume because it's a stupid job.
Yeah, I wouldn't be wearing this just like down the street.
Exactly.
I'm not wearing this on Saturday.
Exactly. Then she said the low pay was almost just more humiliating because you were just gawked at by men constantly who would like wave their hotel room keys in your face. Probably because you were dressed as a bunny. And like it was based off the magazine Playboy where the women are naked and then the men don't respect them. No, wasn't nice. She had to spend countless hours trapped in the uncomfortable uniform. And she said, interestingly, I thought this was interesting, she went to a chiropodist, I guess it's like a podiatrist, about her feet because they really, really hurt. And she said, in a job like that, your feet are bound to get a few sizes bigger. Anyway, in Gloria Steinem's humble opinion, being a bunny was kind of degrading. Okay?
In conclusion.
Then there was the Playboy Mansion. In 1974, Hugh Hefner purchased the Playboy Mansion as we know it now in Los Angeles. He had purchased the original Playboy Mansion in Chicago in 1959 and held parties with celebrities and socialites, and it became really, really famous. He had this indoor swimming pool, which honestly
Yeah, it was
looked pretty sick.
Yeah.
The LA house was the next level up. It had 29 rooms, a game room, 3 zoo/aviary buildings, including a related pet cemetery.
To house the bunnies.
Yeah. A tennis and basketball court, a waterfall, and a swimming pool area, which we know from the show. In 2010, Hugh Hefner's former girlfriend, Isabella St. James, wrote in her memoir, Bunny Tales, that the house was definitely in need of renovation. She said everything in the mansion felt old and stale, and Archie the house dog would regularly relieve himself on the hallway curtains, adding a powerful whiff of urine to the general scent of decay.
It means so much to me that house smelled like piss. I can't tell you how much that means to me. I needed that.
She also said each bedroom had mismatched random pieces of furniture. It was as if someone had gone to a charity shop and bought the basics for each room. And she also said the mattresses on our beds were disgusting, old, worn and stained. The sheets were past their best too.
Imagine how much sex had happened in those beds.
Then there was just controversies that happened in the mansion.
I'm worried about Archie the dog. No one was letting him out.
I know.
And he was probably extremely distressed when he was weighing on the curtains.
I watched a few episodes of Girls of the Playboy Mansion as research.
Did Archie feature?
There were so many dogs because each of the girls had like 4 dogs. I forgot that whole show was dogs barking. Row, 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 row. And the girls are like, I'm like, holy crap, can somebody look after
Let them
these
out.
animals?
Take them for a walk.
Jesus, you have plenty of time.
You have a zoo.
You have nowhere to be.
Let them in the backyard for a little run around.
There was a lot of dogs. The mansion was linked to controversy when comedian Bill Cosby, a good friend of Hughes, was accused of allegedly molesting a woman named Judy Huth at the Playboy Mansion in 1974. There was a lawsuit filed in 2014. Hefner insisted he would never have tolerated such behaviour in the mansion.
Me? A man who...
Published images of a 10-year-old girl.
And images of Marilyn Monroe and then buried myself right next to her so I could keep an eye on her. I don't pay women. Me? You think I would allow such a thing to happen? God, I have been objectifying women for all of my life. 2-dimensional images, giving them personalities, dressing them as rabbits, putting them in my rabbit cage, giving them some rabbit kibble. And you think that I would allow a man to touch a woman without her? Oh, never.
Appalling.
Appalling behaviour.
Then, so you think, oh, well, you know, maybe that accusation wasn't quite right.
No, I didn't think that. Sorry, no, I didn't.
Former dancer Chloe Goines has since alleged that Cosby sexually assaulted her at the Playboy Mansion in 2008. So we got two allegations just at the Playboy Mansion against a man who has plenty more allegations where that came from.
Yeah, it's almost like the women are telling the truth.
Wild. In 2015, author and former Playmate Holly Madison spoke to BuzzFeed about her life with Hugh Hefner. She said she was never given the chance to consent to having sex with him. Instead, it was just expected after she'd moved into the mansion.
The extent to which we just accepted that was how these people lived. Were we 10 when we were watching this show?
Yeah,
were we 10?
Yeah.
When we turned it on and we went, oh, there's
the
a
old man lives with all the women and he has sex with all of them.
On rotation.
Yeah.
And he gives them an allowance.
But one's the number one girlfriend.
And the others are, I suppose, ranked.
Yes.
One of them is 18 years old. That man is 80. The dogs, they weigh on the floor. Why did we accept that?
I don't know. Holly Madison said she wasn't allowed to wear red lipstick and that Hugh was critical of her looks, telling her, you look old, hard and cheap with short hair. He forced her to quit her waitressing job at Hooters and he didn't let any of them be financially independent. She became extremely depressed, developed a stutter and had really severe mental health issues. Hefner released a statement to BuzzFeed in response and he said, over the course of my life, I've had more than my fair share of romantic relationships with wonderful women. Many moved on to live happy, healthy and productive lives and I'm pleased to say remain dear friends today. Sadly, there are a few who have chosen to rewrite history in an attempt to stay in the spotlight. I guess as the old saying goes, you can't win them all.
Your house smells like whey. Your curtains smell like whey. You smell like whey. Get out of your dressing gown. Put on some jeans and go to the shop. Like
Jesus.
Have a shower. I don't think that man ever showered.
In Holly Madison's tell-all book, she said Hugh would watch porn, smoke weed and masturbate while his girlfriends would cavort in front of him after being ordered to dress in identical nightwear. In terms of sex, she said there was zero intimacy involved, no kissing. It was so brief that I can't even recall what it felt like beyond having a heavy body on top of mine.
Pleasant.
Then Kendra Wilkinson went on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of It.
Kendra.
Yeah,
she was fun.
Do you have to do it?
I honestly knew
you say his girlfriends, do they all sleep with him then or what?
Yeah.
Do they?
And they're the greatest
What's the
people.
youngest girls in there?
Well, I was 18 at the time.
And how old was he?
78.
Oh, wow.
Seriously?
So she went on I'm a Celebrity and she said she had to be very drunk or smoke lots of weed to survive having sex with him, and claimed the sessions would last around 60 seconds. She said, at the minute mark, I pulled away and it was done. It was like a job, clock in, clock out. It's not like I enjoyed having sex with him. And when they had sex, she was 18 and he was 78. That's lovely. Kendra said the bunnies used to receive a $1,000 allowance per week, but they weren't allowed jobs. So they had no independence.
They were on primetime television. They should have been paid a lot more than that, I feel.
I know. I think so too. And then Isabella St. James said that Hugh used money as a weapon against the girls and that he wouldn't give it to them if they'd been out of town or had missed a going out night. And Holly Madison said that Hugh encouraged competition and body image issues between all the girlfriends. And she said his legacy is full of evidence of the exploitation of women for professional gain. Well said.
Well said. And it began with Marilyn Monroe.
It really
on that
did.
centerfold.
It really did. Then we move on to his legacy. So he died at 91 a few years ago. And it was a very interesting time because people were trying to process, oh, the old man in the dressing gown died. I think he did some bad things. And then some people were like,
Don't speak ill of the dead.
Yeah, some people said that. And some people were like, not all bad things, which is true.
Which is always true.
Yeah.
Not all good, not all bad.
Exactly. But there were some very interesting discussions around Hef after he died. And one woman who always says exactly what I think, her name's Jill Filipovich, wrote for Time an article where the headline was, "No, Hugh Hefner did not love women." And I'm like,
So true.
yes. And she said he was on the right side of many of the biggest issues of the modern era, like free speech, reproductive choice, gay rights, and that Playboy pushed the envelope in many ways. But it did so within the narrowest of frames, men's views, experiences, interests, biases, desires. It wasn't about women. It wasn't for women.
Because they wanted men to go and have lots of sex, which is lovely. But then they didn't want men to go and be fathers to 100 kids. So reproductive rights was very useful to them as well.
It was for men,
It was
not for
mutually beneficial, I feel.
Yes. She also wrote, what Hefner and Playboy never did was present women as human or consider us anything like men. Hefner made female sex objects more relatable and accessible. The Playboy centerfold was the girl next door, not the movie actress, but this wasn't so much an elevation as a downward shift, social permission for men to look at all women through the zipper in their jeans and not even bother to pretend it was otherwise.
Yep.
Very true.
And that's what our mum always says.
Yep.
She says, next time you're walking down the street and someone honks at you or yells out the car, you dirty slut.
Yep.
Or something objectifying about your body, she says you can thank your mate Hugh Hefner.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
She does always
She's
say
a wise
that.
woman.
She is. She is. Feminist Julie Bindel argued about Hefner that he caused immeasurable damage by turning porn and therefore the buying and selling of women's bodies into a legitimate business. He really did. He made a lot of money out of women's bodies
Yeah.
when often he didn't pay them. There was another feminist who said Hugh Hefner probably did more to mainstream the exploitation of women's bodies than any other figure in American history.
Mm-hmm.
And he managed to convince many women that taking off their clothes for men's pleasure was not just empowering, but a worthy goal in itself. And that he embodied the aesthetic notion that images of women and women themselves exist to please men.
Correct.
I think that just about sums it up.
He did it for 60 years.
Yeah. Closer to 70. Yeah.
That's a lifetime.
That's very much what he did. But when you think about Hugh Hefner's legacy, what do you think?
Yucky man in a dressing gown.
Yucky man. Yucky man.
Who made women live alongside dog urine.
Yeah.
And I would imagine relatedly dog hair and dog poo.
Yeah.
And that's no way for a bunny rabbit to live.
Jessie, it's time for
I have a charge.
Okay, go.
Mine is actually a law charge.
Oh.
Like a court law charge. It's in the law book. I looked it up. I'm charging him with child exploitation material.
Yeah.
And producing it and printing it illegally. Obviously, because it's against the law.
About 10 times.
Posting images of literal naked children and profiting off them. Sentence.
Any good lawyer knows that when a man is dead, he can't go to jail. You can't dig him up and put him in a cell. You can, but it wouldn't serve a lot of purpose because he's dead. He doesn't know where he is, which brings me to my next point. I need Hugh Hefner to move. I'm going to need him to move.
Away from Marilyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to dig up his grave and I need to move you elsewhere.
Where?
He doesn't get to creep on Marilyn Monroe anymore. The woman has been through enough. I'm digging him up.
Okay. And just moving him like a few plots over?
No, because then he could still see her. I'm moving him to a different city.
I think I'm moving him to his mansion.
No, he can still watch women from there. I want to move him to like an all-male plot.
Like a war cemetery.
Oh, yeah. And it's like he looks to his left, he looks to his right. There's no ladies to ogle. Gawk at.
Yeah.
Gawk at. Look out with your little slimy little lips.
Yeah.
No more. You don't get to watch Marilyn Monroe anymore. You are going elsewhere.
Okay, that's
my
fair.
punishment.
Okay. That's, again, is unrelated to the charge, but that's okay.
It would hurt him.
Yes, it would. So my charges are for Playboy rather than Hugh Hefner because, as you say, he is dead. There is not much punishment we can give him apart from moving his
Dead body away from Marilyn.
Yes. My charge, objectifying women.
Yes.
My sentence, give all women born post-1959 $5 with which to buy themselves something nice.
A treat. A treat.
I think I could buy 2 chocolates.
At a service station, I think sometimes there is a deal.
Yeah.
You could get a chocolate and a drink.
Yeah, and I just think that would be really nice.
I think you could get like a meal deal.
Yeah. Maybe we go to Macca's.
Sandwich.
I don't want a sandwich.
Maybe like some discounted jewellery at one of those cheap jewellery shops.
Just something really to spoil myself.
Brighten up your day.
Because I've lived with objectification for 30-odd years.
Buy yourself a treat.
Yes.
Great idea.
Yeah.
My charge. I consulted the handbook. There was child exploitation material. I went, yes, that fits.
Yeah.
Then I saw another charge and I went, no, that fits.
Okay.
Being yuck.
Ah, yes.
Being yuck.
The old being yuck.
Also known as being ooey.
Yep.
Being gross.
Uh-huh.
Giving me the heebie-jeebies. And I'm upset about the dog urine and the mismatched furniture.
Okay.
Which I have stated. I know it's not the point.
Yep.
I feel yuck about him using women as two-dimensional fantasy figures to ejaculate over when Martin Luther King was on the next page.
Yes.
That feels disrespectful to the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something very funny.
I have to say, though, it's better than not having Martin Luther King. Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
But I guess it's like, why don't you do
But even
Martin
better than
Luther
that is
King?
to not ejaculate
Yeah,
over
why
the
don't
page
we
before.
just give men enough credit that they will care about Martin Luther King without needing to ejaculate on the next page?
Yes, exactly. That's
think
what I'm
that would be
thinking.
nice.
Now, a funny thing happens with cancelled. This is a bit of a BTS, behind the scenes. Sometimes we run out of time, we don't come up with a sentence. So I thought we could work one together, okay? I ran out of time. Oh,
What?
I wrote down a note just before I came in here because I realised I'd run out of sentencing time. Yeah. And I wrote, did you see this? I hand wrote this.
No.
Give me $5 every time someone yells out something disgusting from a window.
Oh, we're such twins.
$5. That's a magic
Very
number.
eerie.
That's what I think.
Okay.
Give me $5 and I guess relatedly for a treat.
Okay.
Do you have any others?
Yes, I had another
Okay.
one and I had a charge and a sentence because I finished my job.
I ran out of time.
My charge. Unnecessarily and explicitly sexualizing bunnies.
Oh, yeah.
Sentence. You have to fund a campaign to rebrand bunnies as quite a nice animal that make good pets and are in no way any more sexual than any other animal.
So true.
Like, just, I want like a little bunny face. It's like, I'm not sexy. Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week of Cancelled. We would love you to follow Cancelled wherever you listen to your podcast. Maybe leave us a nice review. This podcast is produced by Rose Kerr and the head of podcasts at Mamamia is Elissa Ratliff. If you want to see our receipts, importantly, other such images, we will put them on our Instagram, which is the Twins Thoughts. Go and find it. We will have all the images there.
Also, you can always Share your own charges and sentences.
Always.
And I think this is one where you can get really creative.
Yes.
For example, things that Hugh can do in his death to make up for what he did during his life.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the Mamamia app.
Bye.
Bye.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.